Welcome, Elliot Cruz, tonight.
Good to be here.
Good to have you here, Elliot. How are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing great. Doing great.
Well, cool. It's so good to hear that. I appreciate it. Now, I'm going to have to sneak over here to YouTube, and I'm going to have to turn on my YouTube. Live. Hello, everybody. Live. Hello, everybody. Elliot Cruz tonight. So that was the. How are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing great. Doing great.
Well, cool. It's so good to hear that. I appreciate it. Now, I'm going to have to sneak over here to YouTube, and I'm going to have to turn on my YouTube. Live. Hello, everybody. Live. Elliot, I want to make sure that. So just to understand StreamYard a little bit, and I should have explained it, you need to go to YouTube and hit pause on the channel, and then you can just watch what's happening on StreamYard. And that way, when you hit pause, we don't have the audio. I muted your mic for a second so you could do that.
Back to it now.
Okay, we're back.
I forgot I had that up.
There you go. It's no problem. I forgot to mention it to you. I had to open mine so I could come over here and pull up the chats. Hey, there's Tom.
Hey, Tom.
Hey, Tom, if you'll check your message, I sent you a link to join. Tom was going to join us tonight for this chat also. And so I'm looking for my pop-up chat. Nothing like being prepared. Yeah. Here we go. Okay, so I have to monitor the chat so I can keep any trolls away. And so the best way to monitor it is through YouTube pop-up chat. Yeah.
I see something that says on the over here. It says private chat and live comments.
That's right. You and I can privately chat
if we need to. Okay. Which do I have it on? Should I have it on live comments? Hey, Tom.
Live comments. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to put this invite in for Tom, and then I'm going to delete it as soon as Tom, click on this, please, and then I'll delete it when he gets on there.
All right.
Yeah.
It's figured out.
Trial and error. You know how it is.
Well, see, I'm always scared to do that. I'm scared I'm going to mess something up. I'm always scared to just experiment with stuff like this.
It's just the world is going to explode if we make it wrong. James Byers, how are you tonight?
Hey, James.
Yeah, James is in the U and the K.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Hey. There we go. We're waiting for Tom to get his device connected. And here we go. And this is Tom. Good evening, Tom.
Hey, Tom.
Oh, how are you doing, Elliot?
Hello.
I'm good.
We need
great.
to
Good.
delete the Sky or the YouTube thing here.
So
we don't get an echo.
You can pause or mute it, whatever's good for you.
All right.
There you go.
Are we frozen or something?
We're still going.
All right. Do I look frozen?
I see you clear. Hear you loud and clear, Tom.
Okay, there we go. Now we're good. All right.
Yeah. Well, great.
So what's going on?
I just want to thank everybody for coming. We're going to talk about the last 7 records that we played. I'm doing this campaign here at all the shops, all 3 stores this month, and you get an opportunity to the last 7 records I played, the title, the artist, and there's 7. Put your name, your email, your telephone number, and you get to enter for a $70 gift certificate to be drawn on March 1st, 2020.
I'll be back in 2 seconds.
People's been making it happen. Got the can. We got a bunch of these. I got to distribute these out to Wake Forest and to Selma, so we're going to make it happen. Yeah.
That's great.
That is so great. Thank you so much. Yeah. So I'm excited to get started with this.
And I'm drinking a non-alcoholic beverage. My favorite, Diet Sundrop.
I've heard you say that before. Yeah. So, Tom, how this is going to work, we're just going to take turns holding up our record. And then, could you hear me, Tom?
No, go ahead.
We're going to take turns doing it, so I'll get started, then Elliot, then you.
Oh,
So I'm going to
Okay.
start with the first one. Okay.
Yeah.
So Tom, keep in mind, I played 10 records yesterday. I played 12 records today, and
Nice.
but some of the records I played are gone. They sold. So here we go. These are the 7 records the last 7 records I've played. I'm going to
we have one more person joining us. Chester.
Chester. Hello, Chester. So this is Willie Nelson's first reggae record.
Yeah.
And
I've been collecting a lot of his stuff, and I'm not a reggae fan, so I kind of pass on that one.
well, it was really fun to listen to. I enjoyed it.
Okay.
It was really interesting. He had $1 million reggae band. He did some covers on here. Guessing some originals. I just don't know reggae well enough to know that, but I do recognize a few things, and it was fantastic to listen to. So I applaud Willie, and of course, we all want to think about Willie every day, especially this year. And this year is going to be really important because I'm hoping that we can finally get Willie Nelson elected president.
Now, were you a reggae fan prior to listening to that?
I'm very mainstream, safe reggae, if you will. I love to listen to reggae because I like the way the bass sounds. I like early ska, but I don't like 90s, 2000 ska.
Okay.
I like just more traditional reggae sound, the more Bob Marley 70s, Whalers, stuff like that sound. So I mean, hey, keep in mind this is good reggae, but it's not good reggae. If you know what I mean.
Well, I mean, it's
and so I want to say thanks, Willie, for making this record. I was really happy to hear it.
What Willie's a spry 86 now?
I think he is. He's an incredible guy.
This,
all right, your turn.
If you didn't, the record store day release from last was it November or whatever?
Record store day, Black Friday.
Yeah, Black Friday. Yeah, this was part of it, and it's actually really good. I really enjoyed this one. Speaking of Willie Nelson, so.
All right, Mr. Elliott, your turn.
All right. Well, kind of in the same, not the same vein, but I listen to CDs in the car. Old school, I guess. This is one of the 2 CDs I played right much in the car the last week or 2, and that is Marty Stewart, and the greatest band name ever, Marty Stewart and the Fabulous Superlatives. And this is way out west, and Mike Campbell produced it.
Okay.
It is a very interesting album. It's kind of a out west mood album. I mean, it's he's telling a story like it's not radio friendly. I'll put it that way. It's a mood record. Lots of instrumentals in it. Very almost like the Grateful Dead went into the desert with Marty Stewart and they made a record or something. I don't know.
Is there a lot of twang in there?
There's a good deal of twang in it. Yeah, a lot of the old almost swingy stuff.
Yeah.
40 sound to it.
Yeah, Marty's really good with that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
All right.
Very cool. First, let me just say I'm impressed that you have the original Blind Faith up behind you, the cover.
I'll probably just take that off the video.
No, I can't see it. I can't see it. You did that already. You did. You lowered the camera, and I can't see it anymore. So, but I'm just saying.
Here if you're not careful.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying it's cool that you have it in your shop.
Okay, you go right ahead. I got to mute this. It's my employee closing up the Wake Forest.
Okay. All right, go for it. All right. Well, I don't know if you know, but I host 2 podcasts, one on Paul McCartney and one on the solo careers of the other. So all 4 solo Beatles, and then one just on solo McCartney. And the last show I did on my solo McCartney show was based on his second work of classical music. It was all original classical music, and we did a show about it. We talked to a gentleman named Alan Cozen, and he used to work in the classical department of the New York Times. So he reviewed this, and he also reviewed Paul's first classical work called Liverpool Oratorio. So just, I'm a Mozart fan. I'm a little bit of a Beethoven fan, so I do like some classical music out there. But like just scratching the surface on classical music, and this isn't too bad. This is it's called Standing Stone. It's Paul McCartney's 1997 release. It just came out after Flaming Pie, and it's not bad. I mean, I know the classical is it's not for everybody. So it's 70 minutes of all original classical music from Paul. A little experimental, little stuff that you expect from Paul. But what I really like about this is he has a 120 member choir on here. I think it was 120, if I'm not mistaken. But the choir it's not throughout the whole album. It's through bits and pieces of the work. And when you do hear that choir in here, it's really amazing stuff.
Wow, that's cool. What year is that?
1997 it came out. So it came out a couple months after his Flaming Pie album. He started working on it in 94. The president of EMI at the time commissioned him to do it to celebrate the 100th anniversary of EMI. So that's why they, so
that's why I've seen it before, but I've never owned it. And it's never been in the shop.
Yeah, but it's like I said. I mean, it's his second full-length classical album of all original material.
Oh, that's cool. There's a comment right here I'm going to read before I get into my next one. The Clash, London Calling, Elvis, The Sun Recordings, The Smithereens, Especially for You, Beatles, The Beatles, Beatles' second album. Tom Petty, Packed Up, The Plantation, and Double Fantasy by John Lennon and Yoko Ono. Wow, that's pretty cool, Wink. And James Byers says that he likes Standing Stone. Very good. Cool. Thank you so much, James Byers, for sharing that. And thank you so much, Wink. Maybe you guys can join me one of these discussion nights, and we can have you guys up on the screen, and you guys can talk a little bit about the last 7 records you played. All right, here's my number 2 selection. Now, I own this record. I just happen to have it on my iTunes, so I just streamed it there. But this is a sealed copy, which I just got from the bins earlier. But this is Father John Misty, and it's I Love You, Honey Bear. Now, I don't have any Bob Dylan at home in my personal listening library. But when I think of Father John Misty, I think of Father John Misty in a way that I think of Bob Dylan. I think of him as a singer-songwriter. I think of him as saying a lot of words that pertain to today. And I just love his humor in there. His music, I can listen to. His voice, I can listen to. I can't listen to Dylan. So there we go, folks. I love Father John Misty, and this is my favorite record that I own by Father John Misty.
Yeah, you're not the only person that said they liked him. He was on Saturday Night Live a few years back, and his performance just rubbed me the wrong way. So maybe I just need to get an album of his and check it out. Because I know of him, but like I said, he just seemed like he was whacked out of his mind for that Saturday Night Live performance. So
He wouldn't be the first, I'm sure.
Oh,
yeah.
All right, Elliot.
Okay. Continuing what I've been listening to in the car, from 2000, Little Feat, Chinese work songs. This is from the latter day, of course, like I said, 2000. This is during the Sean Murphy period with Little Feat. They had for I don't know, maybe 10 or 12 years, Sean Murphy was in the band, female singer. She also has worked a lot with Bob Seger. And so she wrote several of the songs on here and sings maybe a third of the songs on here. Eventually, she left kind of under, I think they tired of each other, the original Little Feat and her. She wasn't playing, but a portion of the show, singing on a portion of the shows, and like there was just not enough for her to do to be a full member or something. I don't know, but it's a real enjoyable album. It's got the song "Sample in a Jar," which I think is maybe a Fish song or somebody like that. And they do "Rag Mama Rag," the old band song, and they do talking about Bob Dylan. They do "It Takes a Lot to Laugh, It Takes a Train to Cry."
Yeah.
And the rest are originals, I believe.
Okay. Has their music changed over the years since the 70s?
Oh yeah, when Lowell George was the primary driving force in the band,
right?
He was he liked the structured song, chord verse. We do it in 3 to 5 minutes, or whatever.
Okay.
Some of the other members were getting into jazz. Bill Payne and some of the others were getting into jazz and things like that, and they were more interested in going on these long excursions and stuff. So there was the last couple of years with Lowell George led Little Feat. There was a little bit of tension going on, a musical tension with the band, and of course they took the hiatus when after Lowell George passed away, and came back 7 or 8 years later, maybe a little less, and they brought in Craig Fuller, who had been in Pure Prairie League, been driving force in early Pure Prairie League, and he was he wrote a lot of the songs during that period, and of course was doing a lot of the lead vocals and everything. And they got into that New Orleans gumbo mix of sounds, and Fuller left after a few years. He didn't stay with them more for 4 or 5 years maybe, and then they brought in Sean Murphy, who's on this CD I just showed, and she was with them for a while, and but they're still going. Several members have passed away now. I believe the drummer Haywood passed away, and another one of the members recently passed away. But they do I believe it's in Jamaica. They go down for a week in Jamaica and they do shows, people. It's kind of like the cruise ships, the blues cruises and things like that, but they don't cruise. Everybody congregates at some resort in Jamaica or somewhere like that. And they do that. And I saw recently, they said that they thought 2020, they just finished it, would probably be their last one, because they're getting on in the years now.
Right.
Well, I thought the record that came after Lowell, I thought it was a good record. I thought it complimented Little Feat, and I thought it was just the next record. Yeah.
It's good when a band is not relying on one person, that they can evolve and change, and add parts to it and take away and add, and you still get a satisfying product, or satisfying artistic production, I guess you'd say, not product. But
gotcha.
Little Feat pulled that off.
All right.
All right. Well, so my other show, Talk More Talk, where we just do all solo Beatles stuff. Our last show was a series we call Another Listen. In that regard, that's in terms of album releases that were, critically panned and fan panned, and they just didn't do well at first. And so the album we chose was George Harrison's Gone Troppo album. He did no promotion for this album whatsoever. He had, was not getting along with Warner Brothers at the time. The album before this, they made him, they denied it. They wouldn't release it. So he had to go back and record more songs for it. So, come this album, it's a very upbeat. I mean, a happy-ish album. I mean, he's still a newlywed. His Danny was just born a few years prior, so it's kind of a happy album. A lot of wonderful musicians are on this, notably Billy Preston is on here. This girl that he worked with, that he did the duet with, that with you I feel alive, or woman don't you know, with you I'm born again, that song that came out in the late 70s, early 80s, early 80s, I think it was she a part of. There's a song on here called Dream Away, which was the song at the end of the movie Time Bandits. I don't know if you remember that movie or not, but you can hear that here as well. There's some good songs on here. I don't think it's a terrible album, but I don't think it's one of his best either. But songs to look for is That's the Way It Goes. I think is really a strong song. The title track on Tropo is pretty good, and Mystical One's another great track too. So, and there's some really great George Harrison slide guitar on this album as well. And his buddy Jim Keltner plays on a couple tracks as well. So check it out.
Is that a hard album to find?
No, because all of his stuff has been reissued. I think maybe 3 or 4 years ago, all of his stuff was reissued, and this is a reissue copy as well. So, but even if I don't know, do you ever see any used copies of this, Adam, at your store?
I do, and the reason we don't see it that much, Elliot, it's not hard to find. It's just that there weren't that many that were sold.
Right.
Yeah.
I think this only was in the hundreds when it was charted. I didn't do very well in the charts at all.
But when you find it, Elliot, it's typically in beautiful condition because a lot of people didn't like that record.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But I love it. I love George Harrison. I love him touching the keyboards.
Anything Billy Preston's on's got to be good too.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Billy Preston's great. Gosh.
Sure is.
So I played this record 4 times. I had a buyback come in on Friday morning, and it was a wonderful buyback. And this was in there. Television room.
Yeah.
This was their debut record. And
okay.
So, I had to run to the vault and pick up my personal copy and decide which one sounds better. And that way I went and put the best one in the back. And so now I'm offering this one for sale. But I played this 4 times.
Nice.
I love this record, Marquee Moon. It's incredible. I never had an opportunity to visit CBGB's, but if I can go back in time one time, I want to go hear television when they were hungry, when they had so much creativity in them, just before, right after this record was released. But I love this record.
What year is that? What year was that released?
72, 73.
Oh, that early. Okay.
Yeah. And make sure when you find one, if you can, get it with the butterfly on the label.
That's Elektra, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Were they playing at CBGB's with when Blondie was playing there?
Yeah, Blondie, Talking Heads, Ramones, all that new wave stuff was there. Some people say this is a first post-punk record. I don't care so much for labels as much as it's a very important record in the history of music, and it's a wonderful record to have in your personal listening library.
Cool. I've seen that cover for years, but just never. I'm really not that into the new wave scene, but maybe I'll start checking it out. There's some little bits and pieces like the early Elvis Costello stuff and some Blondie stuff, and I like the Ramones as well. But I'll check it out.
Absolutely. Elliot, this comment's for you.
Yep, that's a great album.
It is.
A great album.
All righty.
In fact, I just sent somebody. No, I sent I traded some records, and I'll show you what I traded for in one of my selections, one of the records I listened to today. I traded the last record album by Little Feat. I sent that to a guy I know in Nashville, and he sent me something in return.
All righty.
I only sent it because I already had a copy. I had 2 copies. Never given up my only copy. All right. Is it my turn?
Yes, sir.
All right. Mother Earth.
Tracy.
Okay.
Yep, Tracy Nelson.
Oh yeah.
This is the fourth Mother Earth album, I believe. And I just, this is just, if not even talking about the music, this cover, this album is just so neat. If you'll notice, there's a dog there, and
Yeah.
love dogs. Almost every Tracy Nelson album or Mother Earth album you see, this dog is going to be in somewhere on the album, either the front or the back cover. Those first few albums, it's the same dog too.
Right.
They've got let's see, and they've got, it's like somebody just took some Elmer's glue and stuck this on here, and it's got pictures of the band members because it's a little bit crooked, so somebody just physically did it, I guess.
So that wasn't a part of the original album then?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, it was. Oh, okay.
It was. Yeah. No, I'm just saying it's a little crooked. So I don't know if when they were putting these together, they had somebody on the assembly line, with a little Elmer's glue sticking it on there, or but just a real neat and some just really good R&B. I wouldn't even really call it blues. I'd really call it more of an R&B album than anything else. A lot of organ, and organ is not my favorite instrument to be, on top of the mix. But it's Tracy Nelson's voice is everything in it, of course.
What was the name of the album?
The what?
What was the name of the album?
It's Satisfied.
Satisfied.
Satisfied. Right. And that's 1974. I can't get it right. There we go. 1974.
Okay.
Really good album. Tracy Nelson's one of those artists. I think you like to say she really should have been bigger. But she didn't do hardly anything in the 80s.
Okay.
She left Wisconsin. She was in college in Wisconsin, in Madison, and left and went to San Francisco. And they formed Mother Earth in San Francisco. And they were playing with the Jefferson Airplane and all those San Francisco bands at the Fillmore and the Grateful Dead and all those at the Fillmore and the Avalon. And then in '69, they packed up and moved to a farm. The whole band moved to a farm outside Nashville. And they were based out of Nashville. And I think Tracy Nelson stayed in Nashville, even as after Mother Earth. They kind of evolved into her backing band after a few albums. It just became Tracy Nelson, and a lot of the members of Mother Earth were her backing band, and she did several more albums. But she didn't do anything in the 80s. And then in the 90s and beyond, she's done some work all along.
Okay. Oh.
Cool. Thanks, Elliot.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Not a part of the Black or Record Store Day Black Friday, but released on that day was this guy, was the big Prince 1999 box set. So I have recently listened to the album itself, the remastered album, and to my ears, it sounds better than the disc that was released, on First Hand, and it sounds a lot crisper. With a lot of these reissues, I'm noticing when I do work on them how more upfront the bass and the drums are. Especially for the Beatle remasters and the McCartney stuff as well. But yeah, heavy on the bass, heavy on the drums, and it is a tinge louder when you play the disc because there are a lot of those early 80s discs. I think the volume was kind of low on a lot of those discs, and then as they've been reissued over the years, the volume has been turned up a little bit on these discs. It's funny because I put a lot of music on my iPod, and that's how I mainly listen to a lot of music lately these days is on my iPod. And you can tell when I have an old CD playing, opposed back to back to a newer CD because the volume on that older CD is like really low, and then when a newer song comes on from a CD that's been released say in the last 20 years, I mean the volume is just tenfold compared to that old disc. But I enjoy it. This is I think the first 4 songs on this album were all the singles. 1999, Little Red Corvette, Delirious, and Let's Pretend We're Married. The rest of the album, it's still good. I mean, there's a lot of really good songs on there. Lady Cab Driver towards the end is good, and you know, it's good. I like it. I'm glad that the family. I'm kind of ticked off, and I'm kind of glad at the same time because, you know, in my opinion, it is a cash grab because, you know, now that he's dead, you know, a lot of this stuff, the 2 discs of never released stuff. I mean, he never wanted that stuff out, you know, and so now that the family's in charge of it, I mean, they're just releasing stuff crazy left and right. I completely forgot I ordered this late last year, and it came in the mail today. This is the I Feel For You 45, which was I think on his first album or second album. No, it's released on his second album, Made Famous by Shaka Khan, and it's the acoustic demos on the A side, and then the B side is the album release.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was kind of a cool surprise when I got home and saw that. But
the 1999 box set. Have you listened to the additional material?
excuse me, just the one of the 2 discs that are of all unreleased stuff. I listened to one of them, and you know, they're not. I don't think all the songs are fully realized. I mean, they're more, you know, demos than anything, and there's some that are okay, but you can definitely tell that some were just, you know, in the vault, and they should have stayed in the vault. You know, so not everything is like, oh my God, why didn't he ever put this on an album? You know,
Right.
So, but
everybody needs a good editor, and
yes,
most people can't. That's
yeah.
One artist, Ryan Adams. I just never have been able to get into him, and I should because for a lot of different reasons. But I just can't. And one of the things, I think he's got no editor. Nobody's there to tell him, no, put 10 songs on this album. Chester agrees with me. Put 10 songs on this album, and the rest of them, shelve them. Do something with them. You rework them later and put them on another album. But don't put out 4 albums. You know, what was his production? I mean, he put out so many albums and crammed so many songs on them. And, you know, sometimes you just need 10 good songs.
Right. Well, that's the thing, though, because there's so much time on the CDs that you almost feel obligated to, you know, to fill it.
Right.
You know, I mean, me personally, I do kind of feel ripped off when I get a CD that's, you know, and the album. If I get the album and the CD, and it's only a 29, you know, to 40-minute, you know, album. You know, and then you got the CD, and you can fit 44 more music, or, you know, minutes worth of music on it, you know. But yeah, I totally get what you're saying. It was the same thing with which I hope is not becoming the norm, because that Abbey Road box set that came out late last year, you know, the CDs and the albums were made to where it's the same stuff on the album, which is on the CD. So if the albums are only, you know, 39 minutes, then you're only getting the 39 minutes on the CD. You know what I'm saying? So I hope that doesn't become the norm on regular, you know, on everything, all the box sets that come out in the future.
Because you remember what happened in the 90s when all the albums we had in vinyl, suddenly they came out, and you're going, well, why would I want to buy another copy of whatever? And then they said, oh, but there's 4 bonus tracks.
Right.
I've got it. You know? Yeah.
Well, I noticed that on
so many different ways that you felt like you were missing something if you didn't have it. So there's smart marketing people out there.
Right. I noticed that on a lot of the 90s albums. Like, for instance, one of my favorite albums from the 90s was Lenny Kravitz, Are You Gonna Go My Way? And a lot of his stuff has just been reissued on vinyl. So you can only get 1.5. That album will only fit on 1.5 vinyls. You know what I mean? 1 vinyl and then another half vinyl. So then what did they have to do? You know, they had to put some bonus stuff on the fourth, on side D, or whatever you want to call it. You know.
Right, or either etch it.
Yeah. Right. You know, you're only going to get 3 songs per side.
Or mastered at 45 RPMs.
Yeah.
With 2 discs that has 2 songs on each side. Yeah.
And you have the same or similar problem with when your 2 record albums, vinyl albums, and then they were trying to put them all on one CD,
Right.
and it wouldn't be quite enough, and they'd end up leaving off a song or two on the CD so they could sell it as one CD.
Right.
And don't forget the singles. The single had, you could buy the single, and then it had non-album tracks, and it had live recordings. So yeah, they got our money one way or another.
They did.
True. True.
This came in today on a buyback.
Oh, okay.
I had to listen to Buddy Holly's story, which, if I'm not mistaken, is essentially greatest hits. It is on the Coral label, the black Coral label. And this record looks like it got ran over by a Honda Element, but it sounds really good, and it was really neat to hear this. I'm not going to keep it. I'm going to sell it. It was really neat to hear it. It really was. And there were some songs on here I've never heard before. And one of my customers and I were talking about it. There was one song, I don't know if you say "Got Doggone It" or something like that. And I was like, was "doggone it" a risky phrase to say? Did they have to think hard about putting that on the record? But it was really neat to hear this. I've sold lots of Buddy Holly before, and a lot of times I would just listen to a little bit of it just to get a sound condition before I priced it.
What year was that released?
I haven't gotten that far. I got to wash it.
Okay.
Research it. It doesn't have the correct insert, but
okay. Just
I think
curious.
the Buddy Holly album that we all bought, if we were buying records in the 70s, was that Buddy Holly Lives album. You ever seen that one?
Yeah.
That was basically a greatest hits, when you were going by, I was, in 75 or to 80, I was buying all these records as a teenager and early 20s. And that was the album you see, Buddy Holly Lives. I got to have a Buddy Holly. I've got to have a Bo Diddley. Got to have a whatever from artists from the era just prior to us.
Right.
This was released after he died, so I'm guessing.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Until I researched a little more. So yeah, very proud to have that one come in the shop today.
That's a nice find there.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Elliot.
All right. I sent a friend in Nashville the Little Feat and a couple of other records, and he sent me the Drive-By Truckers, and of course this is Southern Rock Opera. I had the CD, and I'd done something on YouTube, one of my YouTube videos, and I showed this as a CD and made the comment, I wish I had the album. And he contacted me and said, "Oh, well, I'll send it to you. I don't ever listen to it, but great artwork." You're talking about the problem with the time on CDs and the time on albums. I noticed Moved, one song from the CD, because this came out originally as a CD, and is omitted from the vinyl.
From the vinyl. Yeah.
But this is just that great undertaking, a generation after Leonard Skinner, telling the story of growing up with the mythology of Leonard Skinner and growing up, and these guys growing up in Alabama with that mythology, and taking on the sociology and the history of the South, the duality of the Southerner. It just make you think. Doesn't really preach to you, but these are pretty political guys. Their new album, I understand. Have you gotten the new album, Adam?
I think
just came out this week, maybe.
If it came out this week, no. But if it came out last week or the week before, yes. I just can't recall. I will interject something about CDs. We're talking about Little Feat, Waiting for Columbus. If you get the CD, there's 2 additional songs that's not on the vinyl. And I love that record.
Yeah, you're right. There is. But just this is a not only very interesting band with Cooley and Patterson. And Patterson Hood, his father is the bass player from the Muscle Shoals Players. I mean, he was, or still is, I think he's still living, played on all those great soul records that came out of Muscle Shoals. But just, the Southern thing, not thing, but thing. And, the three great Alabama icons he talks about, one of which was Bear Bryant, the football coach, and the other being George Wallace. And there's a song about George Wallace in hell in here.
Okay.
It's very interesting. It may not take this approach you would expect it to, but at least as far as why he's in hell. And the third great Alabama icon is not even from Alabama. It's Ronnie Van Zant.
Yeah.
So that's Drive-By Truckers. Yeah, that was 2001, I believe, and they're still out there putting out some important music.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Cool. When I first got this CD, I became a fan of this person in the, I would say, mid-90s. When I first got the CD, it was on Impulse. I'm not 100% sure why it's on another label, but it's John Coltrane's Live at Birdland. He's probably, I would consider him my favorite jazz musician. I know, Miles Davis, everybody goes goo goo gaga over Miles Davis, but I'm more of a fan of Coltrane. I love his sax playing. It's very unconventional. It's just really, a lot of his stuff just goes way over your head, but it's really interesting. There's not a wasted note on here, in my opinion. And this is his famous quartets on here with McCoy Tanner on piano, Jimmy Garrison on bass, and Elvin Jones on drums. This quartet was, I think, together up until his death in '67, I believe. And this is Birdland. I imagine you guys know what Birdland was named after, right? I mean, Charlie Parker? Yeah,
Charlie Parker,
yeah. Which is a movie called Bird, directed by Clint Eastwood. If you want to, check that out too. But a huge Coltrane fan. I've got almost everything that's out right now on vinyl with him, or that's been reissued, and it's stuff's sounding really good. I'm enjoying it, and again, this is just scratching the surface of a genre of music. I'm starting to get slowly into more different jazz out there. There's one called Lee Morgan that I'm really enjoying at the moment.
Sidewinder.
That's the album, my friend. That is the album.
Little tidbit here on Lee Morgan, his common law wife who murdered him.
Yeah, I saw that documentary.
She's from here in North Carolina.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, she's from Charlotte, which is near Wilmington, between Wilmington and Myrtle Beach. So it's near where my brother lives. So I thought there's a documentary. There's two documentaries. There's one on Coltrane, either on Netflix or Prime.
Yeah, I've seen that one too. Yeah, Train.
And I called him Morgan.
Yep, saw that as well.
From her perspective, kind of telling that story. Both.
Yeah, they have the 911 call on there, which is kind of just really disturbing. But interesting.
It was disturbing.
Yeah, but
what is that on?
Go ahead. What's that?
Which label is that on?
I'm gonna say it's Dole, DOL.
Tom.
Yeah.
DOL is a counterfeit label.
Oh, you can't be kidding me.
Not at all. How does it sound?
I think it sounds fine. I played it a couple times. Yeah. So I'm glad I know this now.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna.
I used to bring Dole in.
Yeah.
Then when I learned about it, Dole started as imports, and then when I learned about it, I was like, I'm not gonna bring any more Dole in.
Well, thank you. This is why I love talking with record people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's great. Thank you. I'm gonna get rid of this guy then.
No, keep it. Enjoy it.
Well,
Play it like crazy.
well, I have a couple times. So.
Okay, good. I enjoyed this today. The Grateful Dead live. This my favorite Grateful Dead to listen to are my Grateful Dead live tapes, and just tapes of that come into the shop with people, getting rid of their cassette tapes, and I was like, bring them all in, and occasionally I would get some live Dead, But this was a good record. It's a 2-disc set. It's on the beautiful Warner Brothers label, and the only thing I don't like about this is Donna Jean's not on there, but I love this record, that's for sure.
They've really been stepping up on the record store day releases. Them and the Jerry Garcia band.
Yeah, absolutely. Jerry's daughter Trish, she's released a lot of stuff and reissued a lot of stuff. I have cassettes of Jerry live, and of course Merle Saunders and Jerry and Dave Grisman. Is that right, Elliot Grisman?
Yep.
Grisman with Jerry, and even Jerry Before the Dead with David Nelson. And it just goes on and on and on. But they could release a new live Dead record 2 times a year and not run out of it.
Well, I'm sure. Have you ever seen them live?
Sir?
Have you ever seen them live?
I never did. I
saw them 3 times.
You dog.
I saw them.
Did you record them all?
82, 83, somewhere right in there. Right as I was graduating, just before I graduated from college, or right before, I saw them in Greensboro, saw them in Norfolk, and I saw them in Charlotte. And the first time I went to see them, I went with some friends that had seen them several times. And my friend, he carries me up. I think we were in Greensboro, that first one. When you, between levels of the Coliseum, you go up to a mezzanine. Yeah. And he brought me up to the mezzanine, and he says, and of course, you look down at the first level, the first floor inside the Coliseum, but outside the actual performance hall. And he said, now just watch. And we watched the twirling dervish dancers, and they would go all the way around the place. Like 15 minutes later, the same ones would reappear, and they would just be twirling and everything. It was a unique experience, to say the least.
Wow, that's cool. Well, I'm very fortunate that YouTube has a lot of live Dead. So there's a recording that was recorded in Chapel Hill, and Donna Jean's on there, and it's a good show. Everything was right, and it was good. Yeah.
My favorite is Europe 72. As far
Euro 72 in part 2. Euro 72.
I haven't heard part 2, but just the original album, double record, or was it triple record? I can't remember. Europe 72. I've always liked.
In a double disc CD. Yeah. Yeah, I like. My favorite is Donna Jean with the Grateful Dead. Yeah, and of course, Donna Jean's on a lot of Jerry's solo stuff too.
Right. I think Amazon Prime had the Grateful Dead documentary on it last year or maybe the year before. I think it was like maybe 4 or 5 episodes documentary, and I learned a lot. I can't say that I liked their singles, the hits that you hear on the radio, but I can't say that I'm a diehard or know any of the deep tracks because I've never played any of their albums. But I mean, I've never
songs over and over again, just different variations on
right.
Really, what you say, Adam? There were just a certain songs that they would play. They wouldn't play the same songs every night, but there was a catalog of music that they would cycle through. You hear them in Charlotte, and it sounds one way, and you hear them in Norfolk the next night.
Sounds a different way.
A totally different way of doing it.
Yeah. they spent a good chunk of talking about how they were pretty much the first band that allowed the bootlegging, the letting fans come in with the recording equipment, and record other shows. So that was pretty interesting.
It is,
and there is a network of people trading tape. Has been for decades now.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, yeah. Elliot,
all right. I'm a rootsy music type of person, and I've been itching to play some Leon Redbone. I've got several of his albums. I haven't played any of them in a long time, and I put this one on yesterday, and this is From Branch to Branch, and he just loved that whole persona, that Leon presents himself as the mystery man. When he first came out, in the 70s, you'd have thought he was 70 years old when he started, and he was probably 30, or less.
Yeah.
And just, you get that turn of the center 1920s vibe from it. He'll be doing something and the lead instrument will be the clarinet. Well, how many songs do you listen to where the lead instrument is a clarinet, or a tuba?
Exactly.
Right. But Leon was just such a cool guy, And of course, that Budweiser ad really helped him a lot there, if you remember.
Right.
Buds for You, I think that boosted his finances a whole lot, because it's not like he's selling a ton of records, but I mean, he sold his fair share.
I saw that very record today, Elliot, and Third Man Record is releasing, reissuing some of the Leon Redbone records. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
Now, Third Man, is that Jack White's?
Yeah. It sure is.
Yeah. Cool. I can't believe I don't know what made me wait to get some Van Halen on vinyl, but I got my favorite one, Fair Warning.
Fair Warning, very cool.
And say what you will about Eddie Van Halen is one of the greatest guitar players of all time. I think Diamond Dave is arguably one of the greatest frontmen of all time. I mean, he doesn't sound like it right now, but I know he's booked with Kiss right now to open with Kiss on their right now to open for them during their supposed end of the road tour. But it's a phenomenal heavy. I mean, it's a great record in my opinion. It's my favorite Van Halen record. And the last two songs you can tell were, Eddie was starting to get a little into that synthesizer, which you hear a lot on a 1984 record. So I think that pretty much started with this album here. Was this 1980 or 81, I believe, and 81, and it's when it comes to Van Halen, it's almost kind of like the Attitude type thing, especially with the lyrics and kind of the rebellious lyrics that come with a lot of the Van Halen records that I think a lot of us, or at least I got, I was attracted to when I first was getting into Van Halen. I'm like kind of one of the rare people that actually like the lyrics more than I'd like Eddie Van Halen's guitar playing, which is great, but I mean it's the lyrics that I kind of relate to when it comes with Van Halen.
Very cool. And lyrics were David Lee Roth, is that right?
Yeah, David Lee Roth. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Now, who's the album you showed me earlier, Adam? The girl that's the big, won all the Grammys. That's big.
Billie Eilish.
Yeah. Now, wasn't it? The I don't know. It was one of the late night hosts or something that asked her who.
Oh yeah.
Wasn't it Van Halen? Did he ask her?
Yeah.
And she didn't know. And, I mean, Adam and I were talking earlier. It's ridiculous. You expect a 17, 18-year-old kid to know things. Of course, we know, but there's no way they necessarily would be exposed to any of this stuff and to belittle them because they aren't.
Right. It's funny you mentioned that because at work today we've got a 15-year-old that helps us out, part time from during the weekends, and you know, and it's an older staff, and we're playing our, you know, music from the 60s and 70s, and we'll ask him, hey, do you know who this is? And he's just looking at us with a blank face. You know, it's just like, you know, they're just not exposed to this type of music, like, you know, like I was. I mean, in, you know, growing up, when I first started listening to music seriously in the early 80s, you know, and just not exposed to it, you know, like I was, you know, my generation was, you know. So,
and they might know a few of the
right,
biggest names, but they're not going to be able to, you know, name 15 bands
exactly,
in 1975, you know.
exactly. You know,
They may not know the music.
right, and a lot of millennials I've met over the last 10 years will often say that they cannot stand their generation's music either. You know, so I do see a lot of them that do slowly get into, you know, music that came out before they, you know, were born.
Right. And a lot of times I would ask, have you discovered the music of so and so,
Right.
to make
Mhm.
them a little more comfortable?
Right.
My daughter's she's 25. She's a huge Led Zeppelin fan.
Right.
I don't know where that came from, because I'm a Led Zeppelin is not. I mean, I like Led Zeppelin; they're fine, but they're all my friends were crazy about Led Zeppelin, but I was just kind of lukewarm about them. But she is a huge Led Zeppelin fan.
Mm.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
You just never know. This with that Spotify, they get a playlist, they make them a playlist, and all of a sudden, I think that's one way some of them are beginning to discover things. And I'm often shocked by what my daughter and her friends are familiar with. But a lot of times they'll say, "Oh, I know that song," but they don't necessarily know who the artist was, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But they'll recognize a song.
It was probably a guy you don't know about, Elliot.
Yeah. Could be.
One cool thing about working at a record shop is that you get a lot of buybacks, and a lot of stuff comes in that you're just never seen, you're not familiar with at all. And this is one of them. It's called Low Leaf.
Okay.
So essentially, this is an electronic record, but there's a lot of tribal in here. There's even some trip hop, and so I listened to it and I was like, I need to put this in the pile to listen to again. So maybe a week or so later, I went back and listened to it, and I was like, I got to listen to it again. So most likely, I'm gonna end up keeping this record, but it's got a really cool way it was printed. I doubt I'll be able to get the light to pick it up, but it was almost like, it's not reflective, but there's part of it that has like a oh, there you go.
Yeah, I can see it. Yep. Yeah, I see it.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Now, is that an instrumental album?
No, there's a lot of instrumentation, but there's also a lot of
lyrics.
There's some vocals. There's I don't want to say chants, not like Gregorian chants, or it's not like hip hop, but there's a lot of spoken word, if you would. But yeah.
Say the name of the artist again.
Low Leaf.
Low Leaf. Okay.
Yeah, I love this record. So there we go.
Have you ever heard anything like that before?
Yes, I guess probably for me in the early 2000s, I was enjoying listening to a lot of instrumental, a lot of ambient, a lot of space rock. That's when I discovered Brian Eno, and I discovered, and so Pandora is my friend, and I had an early streaming, unlimited data plan, and so I was teaching. So whenever I would go teach, I would just plug in my phone into a speaker, and just listen to Pandora. And I had several stations I reverted to, but I discovered Air, I discovered Aphex Twin, and you know, and just cool stuff like that. So that definitely would fall into that camp, into that genre. And so, but it was also post the time of me buying CDs and cassettes and not buying much vinyl until a few years later when I was doing something different, and I was listening to vinyl as I would paint. And then when I was offering private lessons in my studio, I listened to vinyl, and then we are today.
Okay.
All right, I will go. This is Newgrass Revival, and this is Barron County. Great album cover. Great artwork there. I don't know how well you can see it. I'm not holding it at the right angle, but Newgrass Revival from 1979. This is before they got, I believe it's Capitol. They got a major label deal, and it's just after, I believe, they opened for and backed up Leon Russell on a long tour they went on. I think they said they were playing at a pizza place for tips one week, and the next week they were staying in the Hilton on tour with Leon Russell. But the tour did end up causing a couple of the band members to quit. They just were worn out. And this is before Bella Fleck joined Newgrass Revival. I think he joined them on the next album. But they picked up John Cowan to play bass. And John Cowan had never played any kind of a bluegrass sound music at all. He was an R&B singer, soul singer. And he's just got a tremendous voice. And of course, Sam Bush is the driving force on the Newgrass Revival, and they are the epitome of those young, long-haired bands that were getting away from the suits and the older generation playing bluegrass, and were, it started out just, instead of playing the old standards, they started playing, a Bob Dylan tune or just any, selecting songs from other genres to present using the bluegrass format. And it went on the total blasphemy. You can hear a drum in some of these tracks. You're not supposed to play drums on a bluegrass album, Of course, a lot of them did secretly, but it's just a really good album. A lot of Sam Bush is singing lead on a lot of it, and but John Cowan takes the lead. A lot of really good harmonies on here. I love good harmonies. So Newgrass Revival, 1979, and then Bella Fleck of the Flecktones, of course, would join the next year. I think they would have some personnel changes. Pat Flynn would take over as the guitarist. Curtis Birch would leave, and Courtney Johnson would leave, and Pat Flynn and Bella Fleck would join the band. They got on Capitol. They ran that for a while. They were trying to figure out how to break them into a wider audience. And, once you try to mold that band to a certain degree, they stop being what they are. And they finally, called it quits a long time. But just Newgrass, or they call it progressive bluegrass now, I guess. Those were the founders, I guess, or the forerunners.
Pretty cool.
Do you know what year they went on tour with Leon Russell?
I saw them on that tour. I'm thinking 79.
Okay, later in the decade. Okay.
Yeah, this album is 79. So
okay.
So it might, but I may have that wrong. They may have gone on tour like in 80 or 81 with Leon.
Okay.
But they released that live album, Leon Russell and the Newgrass Revival live album, and I think that was there was a little clash between Sam Bush and Leon over the way that album was mixed.
Okay.
And of course, Leon had the money and the studio and
right.
So he mixed it. I think Sam Bush, I don't think they were angry. They were disappointed, maybe. Sam Bush really wanted to get in there and remix that and to give it more of a bluegrass mix, where Leon, but heck, Leon had been a member of the Wrecking Crew. I'm sure he knew exactly what he was doing. So,
right. Cool. I am a huge Morrissey fan. This is his first album, Viva Hate, and yeah, as obviously you've got the songs everybody knows, like Every Day Is Like Sunday. You've got I Don't Mind If You Forget Me, and obviously Suede Head, which he usually closes all of his concerts with. I got to see him twice the last 4 years for the first time, and he closed with that song both times, I believe. But a couple really good tracks on here that I like. Alston and Cousin, which leads the album off, is just a great rocker in my opinion, and I love his voice, especially with the Smiths and his earlier solo records. His voice just appealed to me, and a lot of the things that he sang about appealed to me as well. So this is a reissue from 2012. So that's one of the ones that I've just listened to recently. Yeah, go ahead.
Let's talk about that record.
Okay, please do, because if it's another counterfeit, I'm gonna.
It is not a counterfeit. I am so glad you got a reissue of that. I had a buyback and an original pressing of that.
Oh, you really? Was that on Parlophone? That was an EMI release, wasn't it? I think.
Well, I have the domestic.
Okay.
And of course, he was living in the United States when that record was released, but most people call that his home.
Right.
UK pressing, but I'm afraid to play that record.
Really?
Yeah, I'm really afraid to play it because I don't want anything to happen to it. But as much as I love the Smiths, as much as I love Johnny Marr and Andy and Jim.
Yeah. Liberty is the
Liberty, yeah, which is a good label. Why does that record sound just like it was the next Smith record?
Well, because it's right after, pretty much, like a year after.
How does Steve, how did he write that music? How did he play that guitar? How did the other people play their bass and play their drums? And
right.
And how does it sound just like the next Smith records without skipping a beat? Right.
Well, that first track that I said, I mean, it's very Smith. It's very Smith's. And great track, great opening track.
I had a buyback yesterday, and there was I don't know, at least 10.
Yeah, Go ahead.
There was at least 10 Smiths records in it, and I think they all sold within an hour today after I put them out.
Wow. Well, this release, I don't think it coincides with the original release. I think a few of the tracks may have been switched.
Oh.
Which I think he has done in the past with other reissues.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, somebody that's not familiar with Morrissey or the Smiths, what album would you suggest to introduce someone to that?
Well, yeah, Smiths. Queen is Dead, probably. Followed by Meat is Murder. Not necessarily for that track, Meat is Murder, but every other track on it. So yeah, those two tracks, those two albums, and I think this is. And if you like that, and if you want to then get into Morrissey, then this is perfect because, like Adam was saying, I mean, this is just as Smith sounding as a Smiths record.
My introduction to the Smiths was The Queen is Dead, Elliot. As much as I would agree with Tom that Queen of the Dead is a good one to start with, Hatful is a good one to start with also.
Yeah, I think their debut album is very solid as well. I'm the kind of guy, like if I get into an act, like if I get into a band or singer or even an actor, I want to start at the beginning and I just want to follow their career in chronological order. And that's what I did with the the Smiths and Morrissey. But when I started getting into them about I would say maybe 8 years ago, when I finally started getting into the Smiths and Morrissey. I haven't listened to any Marr stuff, so I'm not familiar with it. But it's kind of left a bad taste in my mouth after signing a record deal. With I think they signed with EMI after their crappy deal they had with their original label, and then he just took off. I don't know the reasoning behind it, but it's an interesting story, that's for sure. I read Morrissey's bio, and he doesn't really have a lot of nice words to say about him or the drummer, but I mean he does compliment Adam a lot of with his bass playing throughout the the Smiths days.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's a friend of mine got The Queen is Dead on cassette. He dubbed me a copy of it, and that was my introduction to the Smiths. And then I was able to hear the next record and the next MTV video, and
right.
this and that and this and that. So I just followed all the way along. Elliot, now that I think about it, Tom, what's that song title at the record company party on Their Lives of Dead?
Oh yeah,
That,
it's one of my favorite songs too on there, and it's just
Strange Ways.
Yeah, Strange Ways.
Yeah, that
and
be a little more poppy, a little more commercial. The Queen is Dead is a little darker,
right.
a little more Irish, and a little more post-punk. But
yeah, man, it's kicking me in the ass. I can't remember the name of that song, but it's a great song, and it takes a shot at the record industry. Now I need to.
Which song?
To look at that. It is called.
Okay.
Paint a Vulgar Picture.
Oh yeah.
And like I said, I mean, it's about the record industry for the most part, and it's really cool. There's some other great songs on there. A Rush and a Push, is a great song. And yes, exactly. Girlfriend in a Coma is a great track. So,
Girlfriend in a Coma.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Elliot, the other thing is
I like that.
Morrissey had some very dark lyrics. He says, "Oh mother, I can feel the soil falling over my head."
Yeah.
And it's so dark, and it's so good.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that was one of the last 7 you played, Tom.
Yeah.
I played probably 7 Smiths records between yesterday and now, but I don't have any. They're all sold.
Gotcha. We'll have to talk about that Viva Hate pressing that you've got afterwards.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah. Is this number 7? Am I doing number 7 now?
Yeah, you're on the last. Yeah.
We're on our last ones. Last go round.
About maybe in November, there was a buyback that came into Wake Forest, and it was a wonderful buyback, and it was full of new wave. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I just got to spend $20 million on Record Store Day Black Friday product, and it's going to be, and then that money. And I'm like, but I had to buy it. So I bought this wonderful buyback, and I did take this one home.
Oh, talk.
It's my life.
Yep.
You rarely see this record anywhere in the wild. And I just love this record. I love the guy's voice. He's no longer with us. He died a few years ago. This is on EMI, which, and Mark Hollis was his name. And
okay.
Good band. Every record I've ever heard by them, including their last record, which was a big departure of this sound, is I just love it. Yeah. So
what was their big track here? What was their big song here? There's a really crazy video. It's My Life. Yeah. So that's the title track.
That's the title track to this album.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Elliot, before you read your next one, I want to read one of these.
Okay.
Somebody fill this out for their entry to win a $70 gift certificate, which will be drawn on March 1st, 2020. And so this person wrote the title, Heaven and Earth, Echo and the Bunnymen. Icicle Works. I couldn't remember the title of the album. Live 1980 to 1986, Joe Jackson. Seasons, Frank Sinatra. Diamond Life, Sade. London Calling, The Clash. And Headline According to by Terence
Yarby.
Darby.
Yeah.
And I wanted to go home with him and listen to him with him. That was a wonderful one. So
That's a nice little eclectic list there. Yeah.
absolutely, and so much like me, so much like you. Okay, Elliot, thank you.
All right. One of the first albums I ever bought. This would have been 1974. I can remember about, I don't know what order I bought them in, but I can remember about 10 albums I bought when I was spending my own money. We didn't have a record store like the Record Crate in my little town. You had to go to the Five and Dime. And at the Five and Dime, they would have a couple of racks, and some jobber would come in and, you know, rotate the stock every few weeks. And one of the first albums I ever bought was Robin Trower, Bridge of Sighs. Listen to this week, and I'd forgotten how good this album is. And I was trying to think how to describe it, but, you know, he was with Procol Harum, post A Wider Shade of Pale, and then he left them, and then he did and they present this as a band, not just Robin Trower, not a solo album, at least the way it's shown on the album. But I listened to it, I said, what would you call this? I guess it's like that three-piece power trio, kind of like Cream or something. I was thinking it was almost all instrumental, but when I listened to it, of course, there's plenty of vocals in it.
Yeah.
But I just remember and listening to it again after a long time, just how great a guitar player Robin Trower is. He's still out there playing, I believe. I don't think he's passed away. But that is a record. Really, really good guitar album. Really good.
I remember I have a copy, and I had to buy back one day, and I was like, okay, I got to see which one's better. And I just remember cranking it up and playing each copy and deciding which one I was. And it's such a good record.
What would you call it? How would you, if you're going to put it in a category, what would you call it?
Well, it's not fair for me to say it reminds me of Jimi Hendrix, because I don't have any Jimi Hendrix at home. But his guitar playing is so, you feel the guitar playing when you listen to the record.
Yes, you do.
He's kind of like an emotional guitar player, the kind that's always making those faces while he plays guitar, or
maybe,
you know what I mean?
But you can just feel the emotion. You can feel the soul when he plays it. It's just like he's connected so much. It's definitely a rock and roll record. I would definitely say that.
And the bass is real prominent in there too, and it kind of reminds me of Jack Bruce on bass.
The bass player died, who was also the singer.
Okay.
Yeah. I remember that now.
So Robin Trower, that's probably what I was thinking. Robin Trower wasn't a singer.
Okay.
He was the guitarist.
Right. So he was the guitar player for Procol Harum?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But only for a little bit.
Okay. About 4 years.
Okay.
Wider Shade of Pale was the hit, but I don't think they had released an album yet. I think they must have released Wider Shade of Pale as a single. Now, you correct me if I'm wrong there, Adam. And then Trower was on the next 4 albums by them, I believe.
Okay, yeah. I know that every Procol Harum that comes in, I check to see if I have a copy, and I keep it. I love their chord progressions. They're just like Richard Wright. They knew how to work those chords. If there was never a Richard Wright, Pink Floyd would not be on my list of bands I enjoy listening to.
The first time I saw Ringo Starr, Gary Booker was part of the band, and one of the highlights was them doing Wider Shade of Pale, for sure.
Yeah.
Let's see, the bass and vocals, James Dewar, D-E-W-A-R.
Yeah.
Dewar.
And
so
he's
he just
on with us.
Cool. I am a huge fan of 70s country. Huge fan. I cannot stand what I hear from country today, if you even want to call it country. There are 3 artists right now in country music that I'm really enjoying. One being Sturgill Simpson, the other being Margot Price, and the third being this gentleman right here. His name is Brent Cobb. This is his, we'll call it his third album because he's just now reissuing his first album. So this is called Providence Canyon. And just saw him last month, or I think late December, early January. I can't remember now. Got his autograph on the album too, which was pretty cool. And this first album was a little bit more on the raw side. Just mainly, a lot of just acoustic guitar, some drumming, and a little bit of guitar work. But with this one, obviously there's, second album, they usually, up the production a little bit. So there's a little bit more of a modern feel to it, but it's still got a retro feel to it as well. So I'm really happy with this guy right here. Brent Cobb is his name. And between like him and, like I said, Margot Price and Sturgill Simpson, which unfortunately his last album was all rock and roll. I was kind of a little disappointed, but I'm liking what I'm hearing with those three acts. So.
What's some of the '70s country that you enjoy listening to?
Oh, well, Halen and Willie, are probably my 2 favorite acts from the '70s. Ronnie, I'm a big Ronnie Milsap fan. I love the early albums from Chris Christopherson. I like those records a lot too. So it's more like the kind of the outlaw country albums that I like.
There's a lot more integrity in the radio country in the '70s than there is today.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely.
There was plenty of pop, but it was a good. Ronnie Milsap was as much a soul singer as he was, or R&B singer as he was a country singer.
Right.
Put out some great stuff. Some of the artists you think about, John Conley with songs like Rose-Colored Glasses, just beautiful songs. We just lost Earl Thomas Conley. Put out some really good country stuff that was geared toward top 10. Let's try to make a hit single. But there was just a lot more integrity in what they were trying to do.
Right.
One of my favorites is Gene Watson from that era. Farewell is as good a song as you'll ever hear, regardless of genre. But Gene Watson put out some great stuff. The problem with a lot of that, though, I think it took a while for the country artists, the executives in country music, to latch on to what I think in the mid to late '60s, the rock artists using an album to generate money to push or for a hit single to push album sales. Try to put 2 or 3 songs you want to push on radio, and then add the rest of the album as filler. So you didn't get the albums that you would get in the rock genres or the rock music. You didn't get complete albums. You got a selection of songs, and oftentimes, they would just record somebody else's hit song to just be filler in there. But there was some good quality stuff that came out of along with the outlaw movement, for sure. I was very, very into that.
Right.
Myself.
I'm Redheaded Strangers, my favorite all-time country record, followed by Dreamin' My Dream by Waylon Jennings. And then, my wife and I, we were just at a a record store not too long ago, and I didn't know that the two worked together. But she found a Willie Nelson and Ronnie Millsap album. I didn't know that they did an album together.
I'm not familiar with that one either.
Yeah, I think it's just called Ballads. I think it's
Yeah.
I think it's all love songs.
So Ronnie Millsap went to school a few blocks from here, Tom.
Oh no shit, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's
He sure
far.
did.
He did a free concert at one of the casinos out here,
Oh.
and yeah, so we headed down there. It was only like an hour long,
Yeah.
but it was still cool to see him perform. We got to see Chris Christopherson out here, which was really cool too, and very engaging, artist. And that one, it was the I got it in the back, but it was the album was in the movie Taxi Driver. The Chris Christopherson record, and that's one of my all-time favorite movies. And so every time I would watch the movie, I was like, oh, I should check out that Chris Christopherson record. And put it off, and then finally about I say 10 years ago, I finally picked up that record, and man, I'm glad I did. It's just such an amazing record. As
good as Chris Christopherson is, I cannot sell a record by him.
Really?
Rita
Wow.
Blues the same way. It's just,
Mhm.
but I don't know why. I mean,
Yeah,
To me,
those
those
albums.
Those great singer-songwriters from the 70s.
Yeah.
I see them all the time, at thrift stores and stuff. Do you sell? Gosh, I picked up so much Carole King, and I'm just trying to think some of the other artists. But those singer-songwriters, other than Van Morrison, do you sell anything? Adam,
King,
70.
part of the Dickens to get tapestry that's clean. But I'll give you $10 for every tapestry that's clean and flat.
Right. Yeah, there's a million of them out there. None of them are clean.
Oh my gosh, it's horrible. It's just like trying to find Blue Hawaii. They all got ran over by Massey Ferguson's or something like that.
Yeah, it's that Chris Christopherson record is called The Silver Tongued Devil and I highly recommend that record.
Yeah.
Bobby Gentry, I can sell her, but Glenn Campbell can't sell Glenn.
Really?
You can't sell Bobby Gentry?
Oh yeah, I can sell her, but
Okay.
especially sitting pretty. But
Hey,
Merrill Haggard's another one I like.
Gentry. I'm sorry, Bobby Gentry. That Ode to Billy Joe album. That's one of the best albums ever put out there, if you ask me.
oh yeah,
I mean, that is a great album, and she produced that album, although she doesn't get production credit on it.
Really?
They put
Album and not get credit on it.
because she was a female in 1966.
Okay.
So, if you're a female, you couldn't be a producer. But the truth is, the guy that was the record label producer just sat back, and she did all that stuff herself. She's a very very creative artist in a lot of different ways. And when she went to Las Vegas, she put on a big Las Vegas show, and she did everything. They said everything from the costumes to to all the choreography to everything. And I think she went to London and did a BBC variety show for a couple of years, and
Wow.
she had an interesting. She's still out there, but they call her a recluse. But I think she just wants her privacy.
Yeah.
You want somebody a recluse if you're famous and you don't like people bothering you. But if you're not famous, it's just they like the privacy.
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah, absolutely.
Adam, did you get that 3 LP Patsy Cline set for Record Store Day?
I did. I ordered several copies and got 2. And
Okay.
I got some of the reissues, and Third Man is pressing. They ran out. Now they're pressing more reissues.
Oh, they are.
Yeah, they're doing.
Yeah, we didn't get them out here in Arizona. For some reason, I heard that they were regional, which I don't understand why they wouldn't. But go ahead.
I ordered like 8, and I got 2, and then I just emailed Third Man, which I have an account with them. I was like, hey, I know you guys aren't selling these, but I only got two, and I want one for me, and it's not fair for me not to have one at every shop. And so they just sent
Right.
them out. So,
Oh, okay.
and I know that BG's fan, she was able to get one. Jill, she was able to get one.
Chill.
She was really happy about that. But yeah, absolutely. It's the DECA years, which was
Yep. Mm-hmm.
stuff. And, before RSD Black Friday, before it was even announced, I didn't have any Patsy Cline in stock. She would always sell out. We were talking about country records and how sometimes they're hard to find. When I first opened, the first year or so, I probably had 20 Willie Nelson records at any given time. And they were in the $3 bins. And it took forever to sell those. And I'm like, what am I going to do with all these Willie Nelson records? And now I just try to get as many Willie Nelson records as I can because they sell.
Is it with like Willie? Say, would you think he's more like a regional, like he's more famous in Texas, obviously, probably more than, let's say, like where you're at, in like North Carolina? Would you say, or now, or like back then, like you said? I mean, you couldn't sell any back then.
It is because
he was big here. I saw him
He's big here.
Okay.
I think what happened, Tom, is that I was into vinyl before the revival happened, and I was able to pick up tons of vinyl, and it just so happened I had probably 20 Willie Nelson records, and but little by little, when people got turntables, and little by little, when people got their parents' turntables, and all this and all that, little by little, Willie Nelson records were needed, and I would love to have a box full of Willie Nelson at the moment.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think this is his last record right there, Last Man Standing.
Yeah, I brought that in. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Yeah.
I haven't listened to it yet, but
we're a little delayed with getting the YouTube comments on StreamYard, but Tanner, how are you doing tonight? Tanner says, "Hey, Adam, Tom, and Elliot." Hey, Tanner, how are you?
Tanner,
I would love. There it is, Tanner. I would love to have you one of these nights and be a guest and share with us the last 7 records that you played, and that would be good if we could plan that out sometime. Actually, I extend this invitation to anybody. Reach out to me. My information is all over the internet. Just search Record Crate. You can find my name, my phone number, my email address, and my actual physical address. Reach out to me. I would love you to be a guest on one of these, the last 7 records you played. Discussion, and I would love to have. I'll come back another time, as well as Elliot.
Thank you.
Lots of fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Unfortunately, my music listening, I don't get the time that I would love to, sit down and listen to these vinyls. But I mean, that's the one great thing about vinyl. Getting back into vinyl is like I feel like I'm actually, sitting down again and listening to the music. Whereas, when with the CD and the iPod, you're on the go and you're not really paying attention to the music. In my opinion, and I'm just, grateful that I'm just, getting back into the whole vinyl thing and appreciating what I'm hearing again, like I used to.
Yeah. Now you cook, don't you, Tom?
Yeah, I'm a chef. And
do you have music in the kitchen?
Oh, I'm controlling the music every shift I work. Yes, I listen to music a lot. That's why I usually that's why I still do my iPod, because it's just so, you can take it anywhere and hook it up to just about any speaker. And but yeah, it's just listen to music every day. Yep.
Oh, that's very cool. Yeah, and Elliot's very fortunate. Elliot, when you were teaching, did you play music in your classroom?
I did. I used to try to bring in music. I taught North Carolina and U.S. history, and whenever I could, I would bring in music. And when YouTube got going and we were able to use it in the classroom, I would oftentimes I'd put up some classical music from YouTube, where it would just play for an hour or two when I'd have students working and everything. And it was interesting. You get about a third of the class would really enjoy having that music in the background, and about a third would be kind of annoyed by it, and the other third didn't care either way. And I would use it in like teaching about the Reconstruction period, I would play them Tom Dooley, the old song about the murder, and tie that into the Reconstruction period. I would the Johnny Horton songs. He did North to Alaska. He did Battle of New Orleans. I taught the War of 1812 using the Battle of New Orleans. Sometimes I'd have them all standing up and we'd march and sing. And, it's hard to get 8th graders to do anything, 13, 14-year-olds.
Right.
But, sometimes I could get them up there and we'd march around and they would get those lyrics in their head and they could pretty much explain to you, that particular aspect of the War of 1812, things like that.
That's so cool. Tanner A says, I'm doing good for the most part. I had to delete my old account because something messed up was going on with it. But other than that, I'm doing all right. Tanner, I'm glad you got a new account. I'm glad you were able to find me, and I appreciate you being with us, sir. So I'm glad to hear you're doing well. And congratulations on your new account. And I'm going to sub to it right now. Am I the first one to sub? I'm the first one to sub. Hallelujah. All right,
What's his account name? And I'll click on it. Is it on YouTube he's talking about?
Yeah, if you go to the YouTube chat, you can click on his and go to his YouTube account.
Channel. Yeah. Okay.
You can't do it with
where we're at now.
I don't think we can.
Okay. That's fine. I'll get it. I'll subscribe as well.
Yeah, and I hope that Tanner will reach out and be on one of these segments. But I've been having fun with the last 7 records you played, and I'm hoping to get a whole bunch of people filling out these at all the stores, and I hope I can get people thinking about that, because one of the things when someone comes in here and they're new and they're just kind of looking around, I try to connect with them like, what have you been spinning? What have you been playing on your table? And, and things like that. So it's always fun to connect with people and understand what would you like for me to have here in the shop, and things like that. Because I can't bring in everything. There's about 40 records being released. Some of them are reissued about every week now, and it's just crazy. Right. When I first started this and I first got my first account where I could buy new pressings, there was about 7 a week being released. And I was like, oh my gosh, if I could afford to buy all these 7s, I would have it made.
Right. So are reissues pretty much loading the stores at the moment? I mean, it's more reissues than anything else right now.
Not for me. I try to bring in things that are harder to find. I mean, like it's getting hard to find an original pressing, the domestic pressing of Abbey Road. So I bring in the $23 Abbey Road, and it sells well. Everyone brings up, and then of course some of the David Bowie stuff. It's just kind of hard to find, so I'll put that out first. I'll bring in some of that, and it's all about what people would enjoy having and what they desire to have, and then I mean there's just some stuff that is super hard to find,
right? And
then it's reissued, and sometimes on Record Store Day, you can get a copy that's super hard. I love Record Store Day. Sometimes records continue to be pressed weeks later, even though it may not be gold sparkle, but it be black, and it's good.
Right.
Sometimes their Record Store Day pressing, there's 200, 2,000, 10,000, and we never see them again. And I wish that we were able to do that. James Byers says my last 7 were cool. I'm sure I'll listen to another. Yes, and please reach out. I'd like for you to be one of the guests.
I'd love to see James on here.
The last 7. He commented on a live last week, this week.
I think he was with us. He was there when we were on with me, Mr. Mayo, and Doc.
And Doc,
yeah. I have one more question I had for you, real quick. Do you get when like a major artist dies? Do you get a lot of people coming in looking for their discography?
Yes.
Say like when Neil Peart died a few weeks ago, did you have a lot of people coming in looking for Rush albums or something like that?
People were always looking for Rush. So starting last February, a year ago, we had a major problem because 3 of the major labels decided they were going to all go with this one centralized distribution place, and there's been a distribution change, and it really chain problem, and it really affected us for Record Store Day, and we're still experiencing problems from that. So come November and December, you're trying to stock up for holidays, and it's like you can't find any Rush to buy. All the distributors are out of Rush, and so Neil dies, and there's no Rush to be found. Sure, there's Rush box sets and 5 disc sets that are $125 that you sit on for a while waiting for it to sell. As far as Rush, yes, but at the same time, no, I didn't have any Rush. Rush sells all the time, so therefore, but when one would come in, it would sell as quick as it came in. The same was true with Queen. With Bohemian Rhapsody, that was a big swing. The biggest thing I've seen as far as people trying to get records was when David Bowie died.
I was going to ask you. Yeah,
I think David Bowie. I think it was a Sunday morning. I'm an early riser, so I think for whatever reason I woke up around 4 o'clock on a Monday morning and I saw that David had died, and I immediately logged in and I ordered as much as I possibly could order of David Bowie.
Yeah.
Then I planned, and then I reached out to this other picker, and I ended up getting a box full of records, and I spent hundreds of dollars stocking up on David Bowie. But I had let people know on social networking that I was going to have a David Bowie weekend. I was going to play his music all weekend long, and I probably had over 50 records going out. And come Saturday morning, there was a line in the door
to
buy records. Just like there was a line this morning for people to get the Smiths records that I put out. I mean, when they come, they come. Yeah.
Right.
Your social media is probably your best advertisement by far, isn't it?
It is, and I embraced it really early. I'm not bragging, and I'm not claiming I'm the author, but I started doing flip videos early on, and then I was like, I want to see what other stores are putting up. So I go to YouTube, I go here and there, and this was before Instagram. And I only found one flip video, and it was like years before that happened. But now, tons of flip videos. But I think about what will happen when Paul McCartney, when one of the Rolling Stones, when Bob Dylan, when somebody else like that dies, and how it's going to affect things. Willie Nelson, so much to the point where I'm like, start saving these records so that when they die. Now, I'm not one of these stores that so-and-so dies, grab every record and double the price. I grab every record and I put it out. And
it's a funny thing because it's interesting because when like a major artist dies, like a Prince or I say Bowie, a day later on Amazon, everything is out of stock. Everything is sold out. People just rush to get the stuff. And I'm like, well, why didn't you get the stuff before? It was the music was just as good as it was, when he was alive. It's kind of frustrating.
Absolutely, yeah. And then it was a really sad day with Bowie. What made it even sadder was that I think I had Dark Star on the shelf when he died. And then, but there was problems with the first pressing of Dark Star, and we were sending them back, and but did he realize his record was released, or was he was so out of it that he didn't know?
Right.
I mean, I would never know that, but it was really neat. And trying to think of who else, and then today, the guy from Gang of Four died, and this week, the drummer from COC died.
Yeah, no, original member from the Kingston Trio, was that?
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, one of the original members from that band. Yeah.
But Reed Mullen died, and
it's getting to the point now where if I'm scrolling Facebook, someone has an image of an older like actor or singer or whatever, the first thing that comes to my mind is, oh my God, did that person die? You know?
Yeah, exactly. Tanner says, yes, I remember when Bowie passed away. I saw that his last album, Black Star, was going for crazy money. And it was. The very first one was going to crazy money because there was something different about the very first press, and I just don't recall what it was. It's really sad to me that it's only when someone passes that everybody wants to get their music. Yeah, absolutely. And Tom Petty, that was another one that that when he died, I personally do not have any Tom Petty in my listening library.
Full Moon Fever is the way to go.
Full Moon Fever?
Yeah.
What about Wildflowers?
That's a great follow-up. Yeah, absolutely.
You have that on vinyl?
Not Wildflowers. I had it on CD, but it's on my radar to pick up on vinyl.
Neil,
let me ask you a question along those lines, Adam. When an album is autographed, a used album that you get in the store, does that increase the value? Do you sell it for more, or is that irrelevant to it? Because the reason I ask, I remember we were talking about Tom. You're talking about Tom Petty. I can remember when "Damn the Torpedoes" was out. That first or second, third. One of his early albums. And I was over at a friend of mine's house, and in a big magic marker on the back, it said, "To my good friend Max, appreciate it, Tom Petty," or something like that. And I was going, "Oh wow, Max, Tom Petty and all this sort of stuff." And he was like, "Yeah, oh yeah, me and Tom, we're tight, and all this." And then, a few minutes later, he's laughing. He said, "I don't know Tom Petty. I wrote that on there." And I wonder how many times people think that they've got this autographed album or memorabilia from some actor or musical artist or something, and it's just totally BS. I think probably fairly often.
What about when John Cheek writes his name on the record because he goes to the party and he doesn't want anybody to take his record home with him? Is that an autograph?
Yeah, it's autographed too. Yep.
Well, with the autographs, certificate of authenticity, sure, I could print out something. I can make up a whole bunch of stuff. But, if it's an autograph, unless it's somebody like Uber, I just put a little attribute sticker on the front and add $10 to it. But I mean, I got a George Shearing in one day and I was autographed. I said, "George Shearing autographed this?" And then I was like, so I went online and sure enough, he did a lot of autograph. One of my favorite things that came in that was autographed was Moby. It was a CD and it had a drawing of one of the characters he likes to draw. And I was like, well, more than an autograph, it was a drawing. I have an original piece of Moby artwork. And so I like that. I think that's pretty cool. But I have 2 records that are autographed by Herb Albert. I go online and see if the autographs kind of match other autographs online. And I realize that my signature has changed over the years. And I'm sure theirs is too. And then if they got 100 people standing in line, or if they got 4 people standing in line, or if they have your buddy. And it's just like, who knows? I'm not an autograph. I get these calls. I got you buy records, and I'm like, yeah, but I'm not an autograph dealer. You might want to call somebody else because you're gonna be wanting $100 for it, and I'll be able to give you $5, that kind of thing. And
well, the way I look at it, if it's a personalized autograph, if I was standing there and this artist autographed that album or that CD for me, and they said, Elliot, thanks, Elliot, whoever, to me, that makes it something I value, not because I think it might be worth something financially, but because it contains a memory or puts me in a place or time. But if it's, if Tom's got an autographed Willie Nelson album,
right,
and I get Tom's autographed Willie Nelson, snap. That doesn't mean anything to me because it was Tom that got the autograph, not
Why
me.
didn't he just sign it rather than write Tom on it? You know,
Right. Well, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, if I do get anything autographed, I want to see him, signing it. I am very skeptical about buying anything online, on eBay or anything like that. That's signed. But go ahead, Adam.
good story. A customer texted me one night and he said, "Look, I just got this record by Pink Floyd and it's signed by all the members." And I said, "Man, that is awesome! Congratulations." He said, "Yeah, I bought it on eBay and I only had to pay $250 for it."
Yeah.
That's awesome. And so he kept texting me images, and I said, "I'm sorry to share with you, sir, that you purchased a fake autograph record." He says,
Yeah.
"What do you mean?" It
I
comes
got one like that. We were talking about Patsy Cline a little while ago. Somebody was selling a Patsy Cline reissue with Patsy's autograph.
Yeah.
And what did Patsy die in 63?
Yeah.
And the reissue was, 2009. And they were literally advertising it as a autographed Patsy Cline album.
Yeah. And I said, the record that you purchased was pressed after Richard Wright died. And then one day on eBay, somebody had the Ava Gardner autobiography book signed by Ava Gardner. And I was like, well, that was published after she died. And it's just so crazy. Tanner says, Tom Petty, I had a chance to see him in concert several years ago. But for whatever reason, I didn't go.
Yeah.
Maybe next time. To this day, I still regret it. I am so sad to hear that, Tanner. And I've heard people talk about stuff just like that, whether it was this or that.
Same with me, yeah. When I lived in Detroit, the old Tiger Stadium, towards the end of its run, they started playing concerts, one a year. So first year was Rod Stewart, second year was the Eagles, third year was Kiss, and I went to all three of those. And then the fourth year was Prince. And I was like, oh, I'm going to go, but never did. And then now I'm just kicking myself in the ass for not doing it, because that would have been that would have been 98, I think it would have been, so that's still, some prime Prince right there,
You were talking about there was some stuff that Prince didn't want released.
Yeah.
Should have deleted it or destroyed it. And the
Right.
other thing, he released a whole bunch of stuff that I'm like, huh?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I cannot get into that funky stuff that he's playing.
Yeah.
I can't get into it at all. But some people love it, and I'm really happy for him because it's.
Wasn't there an album by Prince that he stopped the presses on and said, "Don't put it out"? And I think there was just a handful of promo copies out there.
Yeah, Black Album, I think it was.
Yeah. I know on Discogs it sold for 20. The story was in a Canadian pressing factory. They were pressing the album when he calls for it to be stopped, and I think he said that it was satanic or something and he wanted to stop it or something. Prince did, and the guy that was running the machine literally they told him, they said, stop anything you've got there, go put it through the grinder or whatever. And he took one copy and stuck it over to the side and destroyed the rest of them, carried it home that night,
right,
put it on the shelf, and never really thought about it anymore until he found out these many years later that people were paying a lot of money for those few promo copies that had gone out. And I think he sold it to somebody on Discogs for $27,000.
Wow.
There's so many stories about records and recalled and this and that I just can't. I don't know how much. I can't believe. I'm sure there's a lot of truth to a lot of that, but I can't believe everything. I'm not saying Prince, the Black Album, is one of those, but there's so many stories and people come in all the time telling me this stuff, telling me that, telling me this, telling me that, and it's like,
I've heard so many variations on the Robert Ludwig Led Zeppelin 2 pressings of what is and what is not. I'm convinced that people listen to it and they want it to be so, and it want it to sound so much better than any other pressing or anything. That half the time, sure, there may be some that are, the bass is so strong in that mix and everything that it does sound more dynamic or whatever. But I don't guarantee you, but I bet you half the people that think they have one of those Robert Ludwig first pressings, RLSS pressings, they don't, and they pay way too much money for it.
Well, the sad thing about that record, I've had it many times, and I got one back there in the vault right now. If you go out and buy a 10-band EQ and put it in your hi-fi, you can get a Strawberry pressing to sound better than a Robert Ludwig pressing. And it's just really sad. Tom, just like you said, some of these CDs are louder than others.
Yeah.
Some vinyl pressings are louder than others. And there's some pressings that, for whatever reason, they're a hot stamper. They just sound incredible. And I have several of those myself. I have a not Laurie Anderson, Jennifer Warren's Famous Raincoats. That is one of the best sounding records I have ever heard in my life. I have a Phil Collins record. Same thing. It's just, for whatever reason, the sun and the moon and everything lined up just right. And I can listen to 10 of them, but I can listen to this one that I have, and it just sounds superior to anything else I've heard. And I tell you one thing about the Robert Ludwig, Elliot, Robert cannot hear bass. All he did was crank up the bass. Crank it up. And you can do the same thing if you get a 10-band EQ. Imagine what you could do with a 64-band.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's so interesting, but it's really sad that people pay that money. Oh, gotta have it. Who needs a car lapse insurance? That kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah, but it's really sad. But hey, I'm happy for them to get it.
But I think they're overpaying.
I think it's just hype and not listening to stuff and knowing the truth. They just know one thing. Yeah.
Well, and there's so many. I'll read and I say, okay, so the Robert Ludwig hot mix or hot master. I know it's not a mastering actually, but it's the mix. But it's this. You look for this in the dead wax, and if it says this, it is. And then you'll read somewhere else or some other person, and there'll be some variation. Or this is also.
This is
hot mix, and you get so many different versions. How do you?
But at the end of the day, it's all about listening to it. You're not going to pick up
these people buying them on eBay or Discogs. They're not listening to it.
You're not going to pick up a Robert Ludwig Led Zeppelin #2 RLSS and put it on a Victrola suitcase and hear the difference.
Right.
You're gonna have to get something a little better than that to listen to. And I don't mean a Bluetooth or a sound bar. You're gonna have to get your high fidelity system and to listen to it. Yeah. But
cool.
Hey, good for them. I think one sold recently for $4,100. One of my customers kept me texting with the eBay auction, watching. It's like, what's up to this? What's up to that? And he showed me the final price, $4,100. I think it was, and I'm so happy for him. I just hope the person who bought it, who went through all the excitement, and then when they finally get it, they're like, "Oh, this is awesome!" Or, "Oh, this is
now what?"
My other one. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, but that Robert Ludwig cannot hear bass. I am totally convinced. There's a Dire Straits record. It's the one with the light blue cover. I think it's got "I Want My MTV" on it.
Yeah.
There's two pressings of that. One is Robert Ludwig and one is not. Different mastering. And it's interesting to hear them side by side. Robert Lewitt has a much more bass than the other pressing, but the other pressing has better mids and highs. It's just like, can't we get them both combined? And anyway,
one of the record stores that I go to out here, the owner, from time to time, he'll do a YouTube or a Facebook Live presentation of, let's say, Love Supreme or Dark Side of the Moon, albums that had multiple pressings, and then he'll go over and talk about and teach what the differences of each pressings are. So it's kind of a more of an educational thing than anything, but it's cool to see.
You have to remember also that a lot of these domestic pressings, they were being pressed in 4 or 5 or 6 different pressing plants at the same time, and they were shipped regionally. And so we're very fortunate, Elliot, that we have an opportunity to buy a lot of Winchester pressings. And Winchester did an incredible job at their pressing plant. And
Where was that, in Virginia?
Yeah, especially when Wally was there and he mastered. Wally has a wonderful ear. I would choose Wally over Robert Ludwig any day.
Cool.
But so yeah, it's just things you learn, and Dad and $5 will get you a nice cup of coffee at Starbucks. And if you got an extra few $1,000s, you can do that. I've heard the Prince record before. It was a counterfeit copy, the black record, and I've seen it on CD.
Yeah, I had it,
and I've never kept a copy. I've never kept a copy. I just didn't connect with me. It wasn't the Purple Rain that I grew up with, or 1999.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I'll put more value on the old 78s that I have that were my mother's when she was a teenager living in Eastern North Carolina, listening to Tommy Dorsey and Kay Kaiser and Frank Sinatra. To me, I'm not talking about money, of course, but things like that are just so much more valuable.
Absolutely.
In the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
Than something like, this high dollar certain pressing of some record. Just, things that are, I guess I'm a sentimentalist, I guess,
Right. Tanner asked to see a record, so I'm going to show it to him. Tanner says, off topic, but I see a copy of Piper at the Gates of Dawn in the background, Adam. It really could be my favorite Pink Floyd album, or at least one. What pressing is that copy? So it's a UK pressing. It's the EMI. And it's the Flame pressing, which is a reissue of the Columbia EMI Fame. It's a good pressing. Fame did a good job with these, and they sound great. I've seen lots of reissues on Fame. I should know which song titles are on certain ones and which ones are missing, but is it Take Up Thy Stethoscope that was missing on some of the pressings, Tanner? I should know this. I should know that. But anyway, this is a good record. But I also want to show you another record, Tanner, that came in on the buyback yesterday. And this was one that came in there. And Tanner, I love this record too. Absolutely. I love the fact that Richard Wright sings lead on some of these songs. Richard Wright's my favorite Pink Floyd musician. But I'm going to show you this record, Tanner, and I'll show you what's so special about it. Excuse me, guys.
Yep.
So this is a domestic pressing, Tanner. It's on Harvest. Okay. But this is the first one I've ever seen that the paper not only is matte, but it's like very fibrous. It's almost like it's really cool. It's almost like you can feel the fiber, like it's wonderful paper for doing pastels with. And I don't know the terminology right now, but it's very nice. I've never seen one like this before. And I had to stop myself. I couldn't compare it against my copies, but very neat. But this one sounds really nice, and it was really cool to hear this one. I haven't heard this one in a long time. Yeah, looks like we got another comment. Very nice. I have Saucer Full of Secrets on Fame, and but not Piper. And I have a mono Saucer Full, which was a Record Store Day pressing. A couple years ago.
Right.
And then, of course, I have Piper, which is mono. I have the Record Store Day.
Is that the record? Yeah, I picked that up too.
I think I have an original Piper mono in the vault. Yeah. So.
What was the combination?
3.33. I have I probably have more Pink Floyd than any other artist I have, just because I have so many different pressings, and I have a lot of their records that are still. So I have a copy of Piper that's still.
Well, Gilmore and Waters are getting up there. You never know when. Not to be morbid or anything, but.
They are. I'm surprised Roger just hasn't exploded. Thank you, Dan.
I'll tell you what, when working on my last job, I was catering chef, and we did concerts here in Phoenix, Las Vegas, and at the Hollywood Bowl. And we did the Roger Waters show, or not, I'm sorry, the David Gilmour show at the Hollywood Bowl. We were there for a week. We got to listen to Gilmour do 3 days of rehearsals. And he did a song that I absolutely love. It's called What's the Deal? He didn't do it during the live show, but he rehearsed it. And so getting to hear him rehearse for 3 days and then do, I think it was 3 or 4 days of back to back shows at the Hollywood Bowl was just amazing.
Oh.
Really amazing.
What's the deal?
Yeah. What's the deal? I think it's either on Metal or on Obscured by Clouds or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was Richard with him for that show?
No, it was just him.
Yeah, because sometimes Richard went with him.
Okay.
And did you feed him?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. He came. I was literally standing 2 feet from him. Yeah. Yeah. There's times where I got to meet a lot of the musicians. It was really cool.
Yeah. He's just so friendly in all of his interviews, and I love the way he speaks and his canter of. He's just really cool.
Right.
Hey, Morgan,
Is some version of the band touring now, or not? I don't mean right this minute. The Pink Floyd. Now, Gilmour and who clash?
Waters.
Gilmour and Waters. Is Waters touring as Pink Floyd? Okay.
No, just Roger Waters. Actually, he just announced a new tour.
Roger's touring as Roger Waters, but he's calling it I forgot what is the genius of Pink Floyd. I can't remember.
I was just going to mention that. I'm glad you did, because when he was on tour 2 or 3 years ago, that's exactly how it was promoted. The genius mind or the brilliant mind behind Pink Floyd.
Yeah.
He
also
nobody's actually touring as Pink Floyd.
No.
Right.
So
David
does Gilmour do a lot of Pink Floyd in his show?
Yeah. The bulk of his show is Pink Floyd songs. Yeah.
And Nick Mason, which is the drummer, he's touring as a
Saucer Full of Secrets. Amazing show.
And he does early Floyd. And the bass player from Pink Floyd plays in that group, as well as some other seasoned musicians.
Yeah.
Tanner says, Elliot, I have to complete with what you said earlier. I remember my great-grandmother gave me an old Bill Monroe 78 when I was a kid. One of my first records, and I treasure it to this day.
Very cool.
That is so cool. Yeah. And then, of course, Morgan says, do you know the movie goes with it? I've never seen that, Morgan. I'm not much of a movie person. Soundtracks, yes, but I'm just not. I haven't seen it, but I've seen it on the shelves before and seen it on DVD and Blu-ray and VHS before, but I've never watched it. I know people.
Whoopi Goldberg and
I think
is it
Patrick.
Moore, maybe?
I think Swayze was he in Dirty Dancing?
Yeah.
Okay, I've seen Dirty Dancing because I wanted to see it because it was filmed in North Carolina, right, Elliot?
That's right. Lake. What's the lake up there?
No.
Not Waccamaw. I can't call it right now. Up there between Charlotte and
Norman.
Lake
Norman?
No, I don't think it was even Lake Norman. Up there in the foothills of the mountains, anyway.
Yeah. And it looked more like it would have been a better set for a horror movie than it was that movie.
It's supposed to be Poconos, I believe, and I don't know how. I don't know what the Poconos. Poconos are part of the Appalachian Mountains too. It probably wouldn't be that different.
Yeah.
Looking than the
I
Poconos.
wish I had a crate full of Dirty Dancing right back here. I could put one out every day. I swear. I mean, that record just sells like crazy, and it's really good too. And the other one is what's the movie where they smoke dope?
How much Cheech and Chong, or Friday?
Neither. It's like a high school reunion. They all get together and smoke dope, listen to records.
Oh yeah, the Big Chill.
The Big Chill. I had
Big Chill. Okay, yeah.
Chills back here too.
Yeah.
Got the Temptations on it.
Angry and Saturday Night Fever. Those four soundtracks. Of course, Pretty in Pink. I mean, we could just go on, but there are certain soundtracks would just sell the mess. And I put a soundtrack out today that didn't sell, and I'm really surprised.
Well, when you're crate digging, the soundtracks are almost always wherever you find them. You can find them in the bottom of a box in a thrift store under a bunch of stuff. You pull that sucker out, and that vinyl is clean as can be almost all the time. And I think what happens is people go to the movie. They say, oh, I love that movie. And the next day they're at the mall back in the 80s, 70s, whatever, at the record store, and they see that soundtrack. They buy it because they love the movie, play it one time, and never play it again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They just albums 30 or 40 years and don't get played.
Yeah, they probably sold tens of millions of copies of those albums too.
Oh yeah.
I hope so.
Superstars have you gone through in your years running a record store?
How many have sold in the dollar bin?
I mean, how many? There's a million of them out there.
There's a million of them
out in my basement. 4 copies.
Oh my stars! It's hard to find that record super clean. I hope Nick Mason tours again this year. I hope so too, Tanner, and I hope he stops in Raleigh. He played pretty close to where I am.
Yeah. If you get the opportunity to go, I definitely recommend you going to see him live.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've always said one show I would like to see would be the Beatles' children doing a Beatles tribute.
Yeah, that would never happen though. Too much pressure.
Oh gosh, yeah.
It could be the most beautiful thing. We're just getting together. Here's a set list. Let's everybody learn it. It's predetermined. You're going to play this. You're going to sing this.
Right.
I mean, I would love to see Julian Lennon go out and tour his father's songs.
Yeah.
I would just love to hear that. I want to hear Julian Lennon. I want to see him live. I think he's phenomenal. I've had several chances to go see Sean, but I just don't connect with him. He sounds
right. I do like this new band that he's got, the Claypool Lennon Delirium.
Yeah.
I am enjoying that record that came out, whether it was last year or the year before.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a pretty good, solid album. And Claypool is just a bass master. He's an amazing bassist.
He is, yeah. But yeah, there's just so many cool things I would like to see, but
yeah. Time.
Maybe one day. Well, and also the fact that, hey, Raleigh is a big city, but sometimes we'll go from DC to Nashville to Atlanta. And so it takes Raleigh out of the equation. And sometimes some of the cooler, lesser known bands, they go to Asheville. But I think one of the best places to live for seeing the music I enjoy most would be Washington D.C. and go to the 930 Club. They just get all the cool stuff.
DP, was it Durham Performing Arts?
Yes.
Seems to get a lot of stuff I wish Raleigh would get, because I'm closer to Raleigh. But I saw Buddy Guy there, and that was a great show. I'd never been in Durham Performing Arts Center before. That is a wonderful venue.
Right. And I'm sure Tom can relate to this, but Durham Performance Arts Center, Durham DPAC, yeah, they're on this some type of circuit where bands and artists will play at certain venues that are certain sizes that are very similar, and they just do that circuit, and it just happens to DPAC as part of that circuit.
Yeah, you're looking at probably 1,500 to 3,000 seaters.
Right.
And they'll sell them out, and they just stick with that, and make good money.
And the groups and the performers work with these booking agencies, and they're not going to play the Ritz, but they play the DPAC because it's DPAC. It's not the Ritz, it's the DPAC.
Right. And you see a lot of acts playing casinos now too, because casinos they pay well also.
Yeah.
My brother and sister-in-law were in Las Vegas last week, and they saw the Doobie Brothers.
Yeah. I'll be seeing them in October.
Tanner, it is true. Julian is working on a new album.
Yeah.
And he's been posting on Instagram little snippets of some music, and he's also been throwing a lot of things in the trash. And I'm like, I want to take your trash out. But I'm looking forward to hearing it myself. I've always liked the music of Julian. Doc says, Detroit is very nice for musics. I agree with you. Yeah.
Yep.
Hello.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And of course, there's some wonderful bass playing that's coming out of Canada, and I saw a wonderful basser this afternoon on YouTube. So I hope everybody gets a chance to check that out. Yeah, and I got to listen to it again because there was customers in the shop and I couldn't hear it. And it's a contest. I got to do it. Speaking of contests, Elliot, I'm noticing you're doing some contests, and I'm actually going to make a video outside of this where I'm going to do a 350 sub with post the last 7 records you listened to.
Good, that's a good idea.
You're welcome to submit that also, but
I will.
How are you doing all these subs? I mean, these contests. Are you winning anything yet?
I did win. That Owl, that jazz double record that came out on Record Store Day. Hold on just a second. I'll grab it.
I hear Chester. Chester's a doggy.
Yeah. He thinks he's going out now. He's going to have to wait a little bit. I won this in one of the little contests on YouTube.
Wow, Johnny Griffith and Locked All Day was very cool.
That's a really good album. I enjoyed it. But for anybody that doesn't know, there's what they call the DC or vinyl community on YouTube, and just people showing records they've picked up and doing little theme threads, and things like that. And a lot of people, when you get, I'm pretty new to it, but I got up a little over 100 subscribers. So I did 130 plus because I hit 100 right at Christmas, and I knew, it would be difficult for people to have time to do it. A little, here's 5 questions or 4 questions. Show the albums that, whatever it might be. This one of the first albums I ever bought, or whatever. And so it's a lot of fun to do those videos.
Yeah. Well, I hope next week to make my video, and I'll probably use the same 7 that I used tonight, and pose it as a contest and tell the people the rules. Doc says, "Oh, is it as good as ouch?"
Yeah, I don't know. How do you say that? Is it ow?
Ow.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Yeah. Don't you think Lockjaw is a great nickname? you know.
It is. And before that record came out, me and a customer, we were looking at, and we were just trying to find out exactly what, is that a reissue or what was it? And so we went and we found some music from that same period that was on YouTube, and we determined that should be a very good record. So have you listened to it, Elliot?
Oh, yes. Very good. Very good. The Penthouse was a club. I believe it's in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a DJ, a radio DJ, a jazz DJ that worked at the club, and one night a week or something they would broadcast from the Penthouse Club a jazz set. And so there are a bunch of these, I believe, of some really good jazz. We were talking about the circuit that people play, you know, where the venues that they go to steady. I think maybe this for the jazz musicians when they were on the West Coast, this would be one of the venues that they would stop at, you know, to play a week or a night or a couple of weeks or whatever.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. And so, yeah, congratulations for getting that. I would really love to have the opportunity to, I would really love to have the opportunity to hear that one day.
Yeah.
And
Jazz is something I've flirted around the fringes of musically for years, but never gotten deep into it. The older I've gotten, the more I enjoy listening to jazz and more.
Yeah. I'd say watch that jazz documentary by Ken Burns. It's very informative, very good.
And it's probably on YouTube, isn't it?
Well, I think it's on Amazon Prime right now.
Okay.
oh, it is?
Yeah, I think that's where I watched the last. Yeah, because we watched it years ago, and then we just finished watching the last 2 episodes a couple weeks ago.
And there's so many different types of jazz, and
they go through a lot of it. Yeah, they go through a lot of it, like the swing and just dance,
subgenres of jazz, and there is subgenres of rock.
Mm-hmm.
People come in and say, "Can you recommend me a good jazz record?" I said, "Absolutely. What do you like? You like some horn, pianos, or guitar?"
Right.
With or without singing. You want to bop to it, or you want to chill out?
Go get them a Wes Montgomery record and say you'll love this.
Oh, absolutely.
Couldn't go wrong with that, right?
Not at all. And then, and no respect to Mills Davis, but God, there's so much more than just that one record, folks.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of blue. Yeah.
There's so much more than just that one record. I would rather hear Bill Evans make me commit suicide than to listen to a lot of other jazz. I mean, Bill Evans was just so good.
Mm-hmm.
And he really was.
Cool.
Max Roach, the drummer.
Absolutely.
Have you ever seen that little snippet? I've seen it on YouTube or something. No, I've seen it on Instagram or something. And he's got you know, the drumsticks and one little cymbal, and he does more with that than most drummers do with these huge elaborate drum kits.
Mm-hmm.
You know, going everywhere. He can just, you know, make so much out of so little.
Yeah.
Just amazing.
And there's so many good jazz drummers that had their own records.
Yeah.
And so many drummers are learning from those cats. And it's just amazing. I listened to this Art Blakey record.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's just to the left of Pylon and to the right of Bill Evans. 3 Blind Mice, Art Blakey Jazz Messengers. I listened to that yesterday with a customer. It is so good. I mean, gosh, such good music out there, folks. And
what Bill Evans is that you got up there?
It's the trio is Portraits and Jazz. It's the original master recording, Mobile Fidelity, One Step pressing. There was only a few of those made, and it was released last year. And I bought it to speculate with. And one day, the right person is going to walk in and say, "Oh, you got one!" And so I'm looking forward to that.
All records are worth $1 until the right person walks in there to buy it.
I wish I paid $1 for that record.
Yeah.
I would.
You were the right person to order it, so you see, that's how it works.
Well, I speculated on the Stevie Ray, and it paid off. The Stevie Ray One Step, and which I was a little surprised because I would have thought that the jazz would have sold faster than the blues, considering the price.
Mm-hmm.
You know, most people want Stevie Ray for $10.
Right.
I wish him well. Because
he most of his stuff came out on CD, not album, didn't it?
Yeah.
86, 88.
Yeah, if it was on vinyl, it probably had a small pressing.
Right.
Or
That's
very limited. Yeah.
And then it was reissued in the early 2000s, and it's continued to be pressed now. So you can get it, but it was just Mobile Fidelity got hold of it, and they did the One Step Stevie Ray that was limited. I think it was, I don't know, 2,000, 4,000, low number, kind of like this Bill Evans.
His guitar playing on David Bowie's Let's Dance album is spectacular.
And he also plays on that Jennifer Warren's record I talked about, Famous Rain.
Okay.
And he's not playing the blues like he did on his record.
Right.
Just like with David Bowie. I mean,
yeah, but the thing is that when you hear that guitar playing, you know it's him though.
Right.
You know, it's a very distinctive sound that you still. I mean, if you're familiar with his work, and then you listen to the Let's Dance album, you know it's him. In my opinion, anyways.
Absolutely, but he's playing the blues licks on it though.
Jazz guitarist Bill Frisell. Is it? I think it's Frisell. I watched a documentary on him last night. He just very interesting. He's just done so many recordings and in such a varied catalog. But I mean, he's a jazz guitarist, but he's played on such a wide variety of records for other people as well. I think it's Bill Frissell, maybe something like that.
The last name sounds familiar. I'll have to see if I have any of those records.
Some people have talked about him on YouTube, in the vinyl community, have done some things on him, and so it caught my eye when I was looking through Amazon Prime, I believe it was, and I saw that. So I said, I'll watch this, and it was real interesting.
Oh wow, I need to open up my Amazon Prime and see what I'm missing because
there's some interesting stuff out there.
You have to wait a while and let it build up because
there's a really good Sam Cooke documentary on Netflix and on Amazon Prime. There's two different docus on them right now that are really good.
Who Killed Sam Cooke? Or
that's it. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. And man, did Alan Klein screwed him over big time, man.
Oh yeah.
Screwed him over big time.
There's a bluegrass. Back when I was in college, I was in broadcasting and major, and I had a little radio show in the mornings at Appalachian State up in the mountains, and I had the opportunity to interview Dole Lawson, a mandolin and great singer and mandolin player, band leader, Dole Lawson and Quicksilver. They were playing on campus there, and I interviewed them, and I asked him who was the biggest influence on him as a singer, and I was expecting him to say Bill Monroe or Mac Wiseman or one of the bluegrass artists. You know what he told me?
Sam Cooke.
Sam Cooke.
Wow.
Sam Cooke was the biggest influence on him as a vocalist. So it just shows how these genres, musicians don't pay much attention.
No, it all intertwines.
Yep.
That is so cool. Yeah. Guys, it's been fun. Thank you so much for joining me tonight for this wonderful discussion.
I just want to tell you it's been really cool meeting you, Adam, and I'm glad I had a chance to chat with you twice now, and learned some stuff these last two chats, and look forward to learning more from you. So
same here. Yeah, absolutely. And Elliot, I'm glad you're doing well with your eyes, but darn it, come to Raleigh.
Yeah, I got to get another doctor's appointment. I got to find an excuse to go to Record Crate.
Well, absolutely. Come to Raleigh and that kind of thing.
Where Barney goes to party, remember?
That's where Barney from Andy Griffith's show goes to party in Raleigh.
We used to have T-shirts around. This is very much a colloquialism, I guess, but there used to be T-shirts, and it would say Raleigh, where Barney goes to party.
Yeah, and YMCA window and see the Capitol.
Well, here's something funny. Christmas Day, my wife and I, we watched the first 4 episodes of the Andy Griffith Show. Never seen an episode before.
Oh my!
And we watched the first 4 episodes, and they were brilliant.
Yes,
they were great. I can't wait to watch more.
Great ensemble.
Yes, yeah, great stuff.
Doc says, "Good night, all. I like Elliot's couch. He likes your couch." Yeah, absolutely. And I think Chester likes it too.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
Wife doesn't know Chester gets on the couch down here. He's allowed on the furniture upstairs, but he has special privileges down here.
I won't tell her. Make sure.
Don't tell. Tom, it was so nice meeting you.
Yes, Elliot, I was just going to say it was nice meeting you as well. Hope to chat with you again soon.
Yeah, thanks everybody for stopping by. And like I said, reach out to me, folks. I'd love for you to join me one night and let's talk about the last 7 records you played. And Elliot, good night. Tom, good night. Thank you so much.
Right.
Rock and roll, everybody.
Take care. Yep, take care.
Thank you.